Alrighty, so I am recording this session for Elementor Indy. If y'all don't want to be recorded, then I would say either hop out or turn off your camera. Sharon says she's blow drying her hair or drying her hair. That's why she's not on mic and camera. That is totally fine. If you guys need to pop out, you guys don't have to be on camera. But I'll keep checking the comments on this, but just giving you that warning, we are going to record this session and then we'll share it afterwards. I didn't want to go into as with all of these sessions, the way that I do it, and there might be other groups that do things a little bit differently. I try to give you kind of my perspective on how you might actually use this in the real world while you're doing your design, while you're building websites. So I always take things with that kind of a spin, not I'm going to show you how to do it. There are web creators out there who do amazing work at that. And I'm going to share in this next slide people that I think that do this well. And I'll share these links with you guys. But from this, if you want some great tutorials on how to do global colors and fonts, then there's a few YouTube links that you can take a look at. Same thing with copy and paste. Same thing with global widgets and page transitions. The one thing that I saw that there wasn't a whole lot of information on, and it's because it is so brand new, is the notifications in WooCommerce and the small little changes that were made in WooCommerce with this 3.6 update. So we will dive into that on how to do it. But pretty much everything else, if you want to know how to do it, again, I will share these links as I go along. Actually, I might just go ahead and copy this link right now. While we're doing this. I guess I can't easily do it. I should have had the links pulled up. I'll get you guys the links whenever I send up a follow-up email. But again, some of them are actually from Elementor. Some are going to be like Ferdy has a really great one about the page transitions. He shows you all the different ways that you can slice and dice it. So again, this session is not to necessarily show you how to do these things. But again, like things that maybe you haven't thought of, or some of the things that I see on how you might use it, while roughly showing you how to do some of them. But again, we're not going to go into all the different iterations. There's always some really great content out there. Any questions before I get started on this? And again, if there's something that you guys really want to see in here, put it in the comments section. I will keep my eye on it to try to pay attention to it. But without further ado, let's dive into global fonts and colors. Again, one of the things that I wanted to do was, let's stop sharing this and let's share my window. Okay. Is this not showing? I'm sorry. I'm having this bevy thing. Sharon, if you know what's going on with this, it usually has a tab function. There we go. Chrome tab. Awesome. Got it, guys. Sorry. Alrighty. So this is a site that's under production. It's not anywhere at all near set up. But what I thought I would showcase is with global fonts and colors. Again, there are some great tutorials on how to do this. But one of the things that I thought I would focus on, so whenever you get into your site settings and you make the changes within Elementor, and you make your global changes within here. Let's just pick a random. Let's do Bob Ross and find a happy green. There we go. I don't know. I guess I like that. Okay, so that's how you make the changes within here. Let's say we want to change our secondary color into a steely blue. Okay, super simple on how to update these colors. Again, great tutorials out there. But the biggest thing that I wanted to focus on, sometimes that if you starting to use this and you see a lot of these tutorials, you'll see them talk about going into the site settings, making your changes there. But what they might forget to say is after you make those changes, and actually let me grab this color just to be on the safe side. It's always really hard to. Okay, well, we'll just play around with it. Don't forget, especially if you're not using, the Hello theme, or especially if you're not using the Hello theme, a lot of other themes will have their own colors. Oh, sorry. No, not on there. So I think actually, where did I want to get to? Sorry, I'm blanking on this. Homepage settings. Yeah, well, okay, so they don't have it on here. But again, a lot of other themes, like if you're using AstroPro, I still have some websites that do have that. You'll still have the brand identity pieces within there. So like underneath your site identity, you might have font and typography. And so if you do, then you need to change those elements as well, because again, you might change, a link text within Elementor using these site settings. And I should have used a quick feature. If you're using your top bar, you can actually just go straight into site settings from the drop down. Let me see what anybody's saying. Sharon, I don't know what you mean by be sure to check the boxes in Elementor settings.
In order to, sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go for it.
So if you want to make these permanent, you need to go to your Elementor settings and check the two boxes that turns the customization off, because you want this to take over. There's two boxes in the Elementor settings.
Oh, well, let's show everybody this. I would love to have your help on that. This is new to me too. It's a cool little trick.
It's on the general page.
No, it's Elementor. Go to Elementor.
Oh, like in the back? Okay.
Yeah.
Dashboard. I have still found, though, that some themes are very pernicious.
Yes, that is correct. That's why I only. Yeah, Elementor settings, and those two boxes. See disable. Well, nope. See the disable default colors, disable default fonts. Yeah, you need to save it.
Okay, so did everybody see that? So in the settings tab, whenever you come here, there's going to be disable default colors, disable default fonts.
And that should, if you are using like Astra or something else that has their colors already set, that should take over when you set those up in your Elementor settings.
Okay.
Your styles. Styles.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's great to see that. Just, again, be aware that there are some themes that do have, that are not as Elementor friendly, even though that they're starting to, get hip with the coming on board with Elementor. There's one that I can think of, Muffin Builder, or like the Muffin theme. They have kind of their own little setup. Now, I've not tried it with the disable default colors, but again, it's still one of those things that you want to check out whenever you're doing that, and especially if you've had it before, because I've seen plenty of times people on the discussion boards have said, hey, I've made the changes to my colors. Why is this not working? Why are these settings not being changed? So it's just something that I wanted to make sure that I showed that. But again, that was very cool learning that little trick right there. I've not really checked that box all that often. So yeah, that's just that's a quick little feature. Again, there's plenty of people out there who can show you how to do all these different things, changing your typographies, right? You can make all of them like based off of there. So again, anything that you want to set up, your H1s, all these different things. There's some really great tutorials out there. I don't have a whole lot to say about that, except for just make sure that you're keeping a standard, to it. If you're going to create some fonts, an easy way, if you're going to be taking the time to set this up, sometimes, especially if you're going to be turning this over to a client, if you're a designer, it can help to take that extra step and set up what your H1 is going to be, your H2, your H3s. So that way, if anybody's dealing with that, or if they're dealing with blog settings, and they're creating the blog posts in the post section for their blog, that'll be then controlled by a template. It would be good to set those. Anything anyone else wants to add about global fonts and colors?
I'm not sure I want to add something about global fonts and colors, but I have a question.
Sure.
If you're designing in Elementor using Elementor Pro, why would you use anything other than the Hello theme?
That's a great question. So my quick
question.
Go ahead, Sharon. What's that?
No, it's just repeating what you just said. That's an awesome question. I was laughing because he actually asked that question.
Yeah. So, as Elementor continues to update its features and continues to update its functions, that question really does become why use other ones. But I'll show you with this website that we're currently looking at right now as a quick example. And let me pull it up. And of course, unfortunately, it's going to take a while to do because we're sharing content. But
while you're
even
doing that,
sure, go ahead.
We just try. I don't want to try to answer Dennis's question, but Dennis, you've been in plenty of my group meetings, and it's all obviously a user preference, and the user that doesn't really know how to do their own designs are probably going to not use the Hello theme. So they're not advanced designers or something. They need something to start with, and so a Hello theme is like, I guess, as in writers just staring at a blank screen, is probably the same thing.
But with the kit library, that's not so.
Yeah,
that's true. That's something. But have you ever tried to use the kit library? And if so, I mean, at least in my experience, it still is cumbersome. It's still a work in progress. There are still a lot of things that are kind of breaking and not quite completely ironed out in my mind with the kit yet. So I think a lot of people will get frustrated with the kits. I mean, I've seen some chatter about that with the kits. I don't know. What were we going to say, Sharon?
Yeah, that's true too. I've even run into some issues as well, but 99% I don't use a lot of kits, but the ones that I have tried to experiment with in my groups and stuff haven't really had any issues. But yes, I do see a few things crop up here and there.
I'm currently developing a client site that uses one of the kits, and it's perfect. They love it. And I haven't found any problems yet.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to show you a couple of quick things about why you might want to use this. So there is, and this is actually real world. So with a client, they had a podcast. So this was one where, even before some of the changes with Elementor happened that opened up the idea of using just a hello theme all the time for a lot of people. When then there are restrictions, this was even after the fact. I had a client, this one right here, that they have a podcast and they use a very specific podcasting plan on the back end. And this one plugs in very well with that this theme. And this theme is actually from Megaphone. And I'll share this tab. So what we did is we basically grabbed this theme that was out of the box, very easy, very simple, and that would for us have less time frame for developing and everything, because this was a pretty cheap website. So it was an out of the box solution for a client that wanted a pretty quick and dirty website, and so we used this Megaphone setup. It's either this one or one of their other ones. And when we created it, it just allowed us to have a nice player, right? So this thing right here was built into the theme. Very slick, very nice. Elementor's not going to have that, right? So there are certain features that Elementor and the Hello theme is not going to have. This was literally built into the fabric of this theme. So there are, whether it's sometimes it's very specific cases. That's an example of why somebody might still use an outside theme other than Hello theme. Or in the case of some of my other clients, and I was going to show you this tab right here. So this, being able to create custom code, I don't know if you can see it yet, but within the Elementor settings, right, the idea of custom fonts, custom icons, custom code only came about not even a year ago, I would think. I mean, Sharon, do you remember when it was? I think it was like June or July when they unveiled this ability to start doing custom codes. So I used Astra all the time, so that way I could have a properly set Google Tag Manager installed. Does that make sense?
And also, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Elementor now has the capability of also using Adobe fonts. So I think I read that somewhere in one of their newsletters. But
yeah, is that live yet?
Oh yeah, I've got to remember if it's just us or if it's, I can't remember. But
okay.
That if it's not live, it's coming.
Okay. I can't remember that either, but yeah, I know that is coming. What's interesting though, I think I just heard this actually from a designer that Adobe, and this might put a wrinkle into Elementor's being able to do this, but I think it said that unless you have a purchased copy of Adobe fonts, then you're not going to be able to use Adobe at all.
That's true. You do have to purchase, and I think we covered this in my one of my groups before, because I remember we talked about Adobe fonts and their licensing, because you do have to purchase a license to use it.
Yeah, I think though it's not even going to be individual license anymore. You have to, you're like within a year or two from now, you're only going to be able to buy either the whole package or nothing. That's one of the things that I've heard now. And again, I don't know if I don't know. What's that?
I was just saying that's big news. That's wow.
Yeah, which would put a big wrinkle into everybody's thing, and even things in like being able to use brochures and whatnot. It's what I've heard. If it's true, then that's going to be really detrimental, I think, actually, to Adobe. I think it'll just push more people out of Adobe products. I'm not sure why they would do that. But okay, so that's custom fonts, custom colors, but great question about that theme. So again, as I showed you with that History of the Americans podcast, it's very, a lot of times it just tends to be, one-off scenarios where you'll have maybe something that's niche, like that podcast, that's integral in that theme that you might use that for. But it's still, it happens where people are not using that. Now, going into copying and pasting sections. Again, the idea about making it into a cohesive theme, not only having the having consistent colors and fonts, so that way if you want to, have the ability to, hey, for the month of October, right, in America, it's very big to have, breast cancer awareness, right? If your company does something like that, you can change all your buttons to pink, when you have a banner that says something like, in support of breast cancer awareness. Okay, so that's a great example of why, it's really important, and it's amazing that they have that global colors and fonts. Now, again, saving, copying, pasting sections. That's really, there's lots of great tutorials out here. Here's the way that I use this, and I don't know if it's the best way of doing it, but it's almost a way, especially in these builders, where there's not necessarily there are revisions, but as you move along and as years move along, if you have a restricted number of revisions per page that you have on your website within your hosting plan, you have to keep things your database pretty small and condensed. You're going to delete sections over time. You're going to delete revisions, but there might be something where you had an original design. Maybe again, I've run into designers that have saved or that have created a design and then they've gotten rid of it. Okay, and one of the things that you can use whenever you go in here, let's just play around with this one. In the sections, the way that I use my templates is I will save certain design iterations that I've had within here. And I'll label it like old section number 1, or and I don't know if this one has it, but like you'll see, like I'll have a final version that I can grab and use in other places and in other websites if I'm using it. Okay. So that, I don't know, before I actually get into that part, does everybody know how to do the saving sections and whatnot? Anybody need to be shown how to do it? I'm going to say that's a no. Okay, so, oh, go ahead. Was somebody going to say something? Nope. Okay. Let me just show you like one of these sections. Okay, let's insert the page. But yeah, it's a great way to save any one of these sections that you want. Okay, if there's a design that you've done, again, trying to upload it.
But you can only save a section, right? You can't save a column.
Oh, as in no. So that is actually a really good point. You can technically save like an intersection, but I wouldn't save an intersection because in my experience, a lot of times you'll have trouble inserting that intersection. It'll try to like stick it into a new section and it won't really work. Oh, yeah,
That's true. And you can't save a column. You can only save a section.
Yeah. So again, that's why it's better to just save that chunk that you're wanting, and then you can label it that maybe if it's that column that you want as repeated, save the section, and then you can label it whatever you want, right? That's the beautiful thing about it. You can say, I love the way that the map styling works again, or maybe it's again this mobile footer. So that's one that I've saved a number of times, where I just want on a mobile version only this footer that sticks onto the bottom of the page like so. But then we'll scroll up with it. right? So again, that's just a little trick, a little tip. Hopefully that'll help you guys out. But yeah, again, in terms of saving iterations of websites, maybe you design new things. Again, there's a number of ones that I work on where we'll have a revamp of a brand, and then they decide, oh, you know what, I don't actually like the way that this looks, or we'll test it out, and we'll see that we're not getting as great of interaction with that page. Well, instead of losing all that work, if you saved your page beforehand, right? If you're completely wiping it out, you save that whole page as a template, you've got your work again. You don't have to start from scratch or try to recreate it or then do that copy and paste. You can just save that section as is. Any thoughts? Anybody else has some really good tips they use? All right, quiet group today. Okay, global widgets. Going into here again, I thought I'd show this. I don't really see. I mean, there's a couple of tutorials on how to do this. I always like, if I'm going to save one, I like to. Oops, sorry, not. Oh yeah. If you're going to save this, be pretty explicit in terms of your name. So like homepage. Amenities for like this place. Let's see if I can spell it. CTA or button. And then that way, whenever you save those global things, you can see, like in this one over here, I have different buttons, right? So there's an apply button that I have on each of the different ones. It just helps you keep things in track. Again, you can have any number of widgets. If you guys remember now, they also now have that favorites widgets that you have to set up through the experiments, I believe it is.
Yes.
So let's do this. Let's show you guys how to run through. If nobody's ever seen this, hopefully this will help you guys run through this. Again, if you go to Elementor, go to settings, go to experiments, you can go
The top section. Yeah.
Yeah, the page is loading really slowly right now. I don't know what's going on with my internet connection, but so right within here, as Sharon said, I'm trying to scroll up to show you guys, but so again, Elementor settings, you go to the experiments tab. You'll want to go down until you see that thing that says favorite widgets. And then you'll want to scroll down, save your changes. Now, when we go back into here and we edit with our Elementor, now you see this new tab that pops up. So right now we don't have anything, but again, if we want to, let's say I'm a really big fan of spacers. I don't know why you would be, but again, just showing you a couple of these things. You can add to favorites. And let's do text path. Now you have those three things right up at the top, very easy to access. So now all you have to do is just grab and drag, and you're good to go. Any questions on that? You are recordings, streaming video. Oh yeah. Yeah. That is a lot. Sherry just said, yeah.
And it's Bevy.
What's that?
And it's Bevy.
Yeah, and it's Bevy. Yeah, Sharon just said, and it's Bevy. The program that we're using is unfortunately pretty slow when it comes to doing the whole sharing screen things. It's fun. Okay, so that's the global widgets. Now, getting into the WooCommerce. Let's get into WooCommerce 3.6 updates. So I will share again those great tutorials on how to do some of these things. Again, there's way better people that'll show you. You can pause it, stop it, all that kind of jazz, and you can see it in action. But when it comes to notifications, okay, this is an actual client of mine. This is a cool little feature. I agree. I saw this one when doing research for this segment. The guy who does WP Tuts, I like him a lot. He's a lot of fun. He has some really great tutorials, and he was saying he doesn't necessarily feel that this 3.6 was a very momentous occasion. It was a lot of hype with a few things, but I think it does do some very interesting stuff. So let's go into the notifications. So again, if we're going to get into notifications on WooCommerce, obviously you have to have WooCommerce installed, first of all. And if you do have WooCommerce installed, sorry, let me show you this again. Go to your site settings, all the way down at the bottom, you can see your WooCommerce. So now, again, part of this whole update, as they've been working on creating a lot of these changes within WooCommerce, this idea right within here that you can select which page that you want to be, your cart, your checkout, your account, all that kind of jazz is new. And again, it was another reason why I think it was Dennis who asked, why would you use another theme? WooCommerce. That's actually one of the biggest reasons that most people used another theme, was for the lack of control on WooCommerce that a lot of other themes would have in terms of being able to control how your WooCommerce setup looks like. But again, as Elementor evolves, they're trying to cut into that market too, to give you no reason to use anything else but Hello theme. So this is one of the things that they're doing in order to try to help change that and help you customize. Notices, though, this is that brand new thing with 3.6. You got 3 different things that you can touch. Okay. So this is how it currently looks. If we want to change this notification, if you noticed, I clicked that plus button. That plus button dropped down 3 different options. Okay, the 3 different notifications that you can change. There is one additional one, and I can't remember what it is, that you cannot change with this one right now. So it doesn't do every situation within WooCommerce. So just know that if you're changing things, and again, I don't recall which one it is, but I think it's like the
add to cart.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But so unfortunately, that one is still going to be the WooCommerce branded in colors. But again, in the grand scheme of things, this is a decent step forward with this. So if we add on any one of these other plus buttons, right? And now let's go to info. What you see here, this is the mock-up of what each one of these notifications look like. It's not an actual error right now, but it shows us what it is. Every time that we add on one of these things, it drops down this new drop down. Okay, so we can change our color however we want it to. Okay, so with this one, let's say we'll go with, oops, yep, link text. There we go. Okay, and actually, let's do it by text. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm just playing around, right? We can add a file if we wanted to. I'm not going to because I don't think that would look good. We can add a color to it. Okay, so if you want just a very light call out, again, this is where your brand kind of comes into play. If you've set up some brand guidelines within there, that doesn't look good, right? If you just want it white, you can even do like a border around it too. So all of our boxes have nice little 12 pixel rounding. So I think I might just do something like that. So it has our colors, our typography within here. Okay. Any questions so far on this? I'm going to look really quickly to see if you guys written anything. Nothing so far. You guys, anybody done anything really cool with the notifications yet? Have you done anything crazy like a picture? I don't know where you would use a picture for, or like what you would use a picture.
That would probably be Sharon, the WooCommerce queen.
What about you, Sharon? Anything?
No. No, but thank you for the compliment, Dennis. No, I mean, you don't really want to go crazy with the notices. Putting an image in there, I don't think that would be kind of the right thing to do.
Yeah, I really don't know. So again, this is what you can see. You can play around with this, change this up if you want to. Again, when there are buttons that need to have a button, there will be one within there. So again, these are just dummy ones. It'll actually pop up on the actual page the way that it needs to with the correct button. Here's the button. So body text.
The only thing I can think of why they would have that image there is if you're changing the icon, although it doesn't say icon, maybe they're suggesting SVG images or something. But I haven't played with that image part yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there are some people out there that'll just do crazy kind of stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen like the new it's Ron Gronkowski, who's a football player, is like one of their spokespeople, but it's these really gaudy, it looks straight from the 1980s sunglasses. And yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. It looks like a website straight from like 1990s, and it's made that way literally on purpose, with like icons that look like from your Windows 95 setup, and the typography is like that. There's all different kinds of crazy things. So they might have something that would be crazy like that, where they might use an image. But anyway, that's how you use this section. Okay, I'm not gonna finalize this. Again, the only kind of tip or trick that I would say is just think about your colors and your typography, so that way you have it mixed within there, unless you want. And sometimes there's a really good reason to have it very starkly different. Again, as long as it's somewhat works within your theme, like let's say your colors were somewhat what they were, you don't have to touch it. But it can't, again, if you want to change it, go ahead and do it. But it's one of those things where less is more. I think Sharon just said that. You got to be very careful on what you touch within this, because again, it could look really ugly. I'm going to discard these changes because I'll actually think about what I want to do with the notification settings on here. And then page transitions. Again, I have a link for this, but we'll stay right in the same spot that we were in the.
I have that running on the site I'm developing too.
Say that again.
I have the page transitions running on the site I'm developing.
Oh, yeah. So here's kind of my tip and trick on this. You know, they have lots of different things. So yeah, go into site settings. Again, this is part of that new section where you can have two different versions. You can have the page transition and then this preloader onto there. My thought is don't do both, right? It's going to be too chaotic if you try to do both. Less is more. So let's show, again, an animation.
And I'd like to add to that, like the color that you use, because I demoed this in my last meeting, and I forgot to mention to my people, you know, try to make your color a little bit more transparent so that it doesn't, you know, clear your screen away. Yeah. So that they can actually still see your screen, but use a little transparency in that as well.
Yeah, I wish that they would have. So this is one change that I think if the Elementor gods could take care of, this would be fantastic, at least for me and a lot of what I do in order to try to make design consistent, is to get an idea of the percentage. And it drives me insane that I don't know exactly what the percentage is. I mean, this is obviously roughly 50 because this is in between this little color wheel right within here. But is this 60? Is this 62? Right? Whenever you're talking about really trying to keep to an aesthetic, you know, you might have a 33% transparency or a 40% where you can set it on other versions, right? You can set your transparencies to a very specific setting. Not so here within this one, unless somebody has a trick that I don't know about.
Well, isn't that the last 2 digits of the hex number? That should be your transparency.
No, because if you see right there, that says 69, unless it's a negative, like, see, this is getting lower.
No. I don't know how the number relates, but those last 2 digits are what your transparency is. I don't know if it's in percentage or what, but
okay.
If you kept the last 2 numbers the same, then
yeah,
in your hex digits you'd be okay.
Yeah, so any of the other color versions, you can have a percentage onto it where you can, I think it's like in the brackets, like where you can say what the percentage is. So you can be very specific about it. But again, unfortunately, right within here, you know, you can't.
And just to add a note to everyone, this, once you set this page transition, it is for the entire site. It's not just one page.
Yeah, every page.
Yeah, that was going to be one of the things that I was going to bring up too. Yeah, this is why the whole idea about and let's choose our animation.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step ahead.
No. You're fine. Here. Now I just want to preview this. Let's open this up. Okay. So, why didn't that preview these changes?
Update it.
See, I don't want to update it because I don't want, this is an actual live site, unfortunately.
Oh, well, yeah, it's not going to change until you update it.
I really won't even, I thought the preview would work with the changes though, right?
That's a good question. I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think
so. Let me show you guys this. So obviously, you saw that so this is a limitation. Okay, this is a good thing that we're uncovering. This is a preview, and I made those changes, but it is not showing up, unfortunately. So, kind of a bummer that it doesn't actually show up on here. But we'll do it on another website that I can do that is a backup. That won't hurt us at all. So let's share this tab. Let's go into here, site settings. And that way we can play around and we can look at this. But the thing that I was going to mention about this, kind of my tip on this, if you have a fast website, do not do a page transition. it's silly to try to put in a page transition. If you have a speedy server, you're rocking like the A+, on your Gmetrics or whatever, your Google page speed test. Don't try to play around with that. It's not gonna do well for you, I don't think, right? Because again, what will end up happening is, unless you physically put in a delay into here, and unfortunately, the clients that I have, they don't pay for the super fast servers, so we have some delay on it. But let's just get into.
And let me add that you wouldn't want it on a WooCommerce site at all.
Okay, please share. Elaborate. Why do you recommend not?
On a WooCommerce site, because that's part of your performance. You don't want to take away your WooCommerce performance.
Yeah, you got to add something to it to be able to do the transition. So it's going to slow it down a little. Although it doesn't seem to be much.
Okay, so now that we have this.
On WooCommerce, you got to remember, people are shopping. They're shopping. They want to shop and get out.
That's
and
true.
You want them to buy. So, the more you make them wait for something, the less they're going to buy.
Yeah, on the site that I'm doing, I didn't do the transition. I just did the preloader. Very minimal.
Yeah. Now, if you notice, again, it defaults whenever and let's go back to our site settings. Even when you do that preloader, it's still you're going to have to turn off the transition.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's going to want to have at least that overlay, at a minimum. But I would recommend, if you're going to do it, I don't think that my personal thought is, if you're going to, take the time and create an actual page transition, you might as well have that overlay in there again, so that way you're looking at that logo or that animation, and it makes sense. Because I feel like if you're just going to have that page transition, again, this is just one designer's perspective on this, and anybody else can feel free to chime in. But if you have, unless it's a very specific element, I think a lot of times people are going to be kind of confused what's going on, at least in that first one. And to me, I always want to try to avoid that potential of what the heck's going on with my website, right? Because it just puts people in a negative mood. Kind of like to Sharon's point about people want to shop and get the hell out of there. Well, it doesn't matter what they're doing unless they're reading some kind of article. In my experience, people always want to just do whatever they want to do and get the hell out, right? So these page transitions, again, unless you have a very slow website, unfortunately, some of the pages I do work on, it is a slow website. I think, age, don't do it, right? Because they can wait that couple extra milliseconds that it might take. And then again, you're not delaying them. But if you do already have a very slow website, that can help out with the transitions. But my personal preference, I would say you would want to work on that transparency, have that in there as opposed to just that icon, because some people might not see that. Another thing to think about in terms of one other kind of consideration with these page transitions, not only are they whole site and that can, slow down your performance, but it's not very accessible as well. Anytime that you put a transparency over something and you have an animated element, you're immediately going to get dinged when it comes to accessibility, right? For that, anything that is not user initiated, anything that pretty much has transparencies on there are really big no-nos.
Would you like to see the one I'm talking about?
Sure. If you want to share it.
Big no for government sites.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So this actually, the reason why this client site is really boring is that they are an apartment complex, and they want to make sure as much as possible that they're accessible to all people. And so we just have a very extremely simple, plain, website that's easy to navigate. Aesthetically, it's not the most, it's not the sexiest by any means, but anyway, it does the work that it needs to do.
I don't know of any government site that is aesthetically pleasing.
That's true. Dennis, if you want to share, you can totally share.
It won't let me click the button.
Here, let me stop sharing mine, and that should allow
Matt,
you
to do something on your end.
What's that?
Do something on your end to allow others to share, but I don't know what it is because I
No,
don't
it should be good right away. You can see him; he's already pulling it up. But no, no worries on that. I just had to stop sharing mine.
There you go.
Okay. This happens pretty quickly because this website's fairly fast, but you'll see it right in the center of the screen.
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah, I put play in there.
Pardon?
Yeah. I would just challenge you, Dennis, like, is that adding value, to the customer? If it's a pretty fast website, right, and you're still in development and you probably haven't even, done any kind of caching plugins and things like that, you might end up getting that thing so fast that
they wouldn't show it all.
Right. It's not really
well, yeah, or even worse, like that it's going to have, especially, and this is why I was mentioning this comment about, unless you have like a pretty slow website where you need to have that transition, or there are some really great plugins that are for transitions that are literally all about the transition, right? It becomes a design element. So there is a really great Elementor actually showcased them for one of their top websites or whatever for designers. And it was this website company I think it was out of like Denmark or whatever, but they had the transition screen be this really cool, like slide in, and it had like this design element, all to show how badass they are at creating websites. Well, it makes sense for them, right? It adds to that conversation versus this. If they only see that even for a split second, or even worse, they don't even understand what they just saw. They might question, well, what's going on with this website? Is this website okay? Is it secure? Right? I think that's where like we can add on features that actually don't add anything to the equation and actually hurts us. So I think for your scenario, if you get this thing optimized pretty darn well, I would not have that transition unless you have something important to add to it. Like, again, there was this one that was it was using a transition plugin, but it was a transition, and I think it had like an accelerator, right? Because it was about cars. And so it showed like this accelerator going, vroom, 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 once it fully loaded up for how cool the cars looked and everything like that. That made sense for that company to have that transition because, again, it added to that conversation. But for you, I would think, you don't need to worry about that. See, you still there?
Yep. I just stopped sharing.
Gotcha. Well, I just don't even see your name on the list. That's why I was kind of worried. Yeah. Oh.
Well, I'm right next to you.
No, you're cool. I think that's about what I had. Again, I just wanted to show some tricks and tips. Nothing really huge. Show some of these things. Again, I thought it would be worthwhile to actually show the notifications because there's not a whole lot of great tutorials out there. Anybody have any questions, thoughts, brainstormings, or troubleshooting that they want to go over?
I got one coming up I don't know what to do with. I've got a guy that's a used car salesman. And he works at a dealership, but he wants his own website. He does his own Facebook. He does his own Instagram. But on most of the car sites that I've seen, when you, for instance, select a make, then if you go to look at the models, it only gives you the models that are within that make. For instance, if you choose Chevrolet, then all you see are Chevrolet models. And I was talking to, I was in the Manchester meetup last night. We were talking about it, and they suggested using taxonomies and doing it that way. And each time you selected one, then it would only allow you the things that belonged in that hierarchical taxonomy.
That would be correct.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to. That's any kind of search feature will. If your overarching is Chevrolet, then yeah, it's only going to show you Chevrolet. I wish I could show you guys. There was not too long ago. I did do. I built one website for a local dealership, but I won't be able to show you because they changed the way that they did their they changed the way that they worked their inventory. They started working with a dealership inventory plugin, and so we just unfortunately just did an iframe that was kind of matched up with the brand and the logo and whatnot. But I had, and what I was hoping to show you guys, I had made a pretty interesting using kind of custom fields. I made a search function, and again, you could create a custom template to where, like, if you wanted to, for them, they had rentals, they had used inventory, they had like special projects, right, where they would take a car and trick it out like crazy, and they wanted to be able to show that, but they didn't want to actually pay for a WooCommerce site. So they didn't want to necessarily have WooCommerce where it had like products or whatever. So we basically created, like, using posts and templates. It could be controlled by that. It was pretty neat in terms of the setup.
Well, I was going to do it I started out thinking I was going to do it as a custom post type, but that I started watching a video that the WP Tuts guy does that says you don't need a CPT, just use custom taxonomies.
Yeah.
And so I was going to do it in the regular post type because there won't be any other post on his website. He's not going to blog. And
okay.
But then I was wondering, since you're here, Sharon, can you do that in WooCommerce?
Custom taxonomies, yes.
No, I mean, let me show you the screen right quick. Okay, so if I go over here, if you just choose model, you get everything in the world.
Yeah.
However, if I choose Chevrolet first, then my models only come up Chevrolet.
Right.
And it shows me I selected pickups because I happen to be a pickup person. And it just shows me all the pickups.
Okay.
But I don't know how to do that. That's what I'm trying to learn.
That's a lot of work. I can tell you.
Yeah, Sharon. Yeah, that is a lot of work.
Just to do that little thing.
So Dennis, you remember, well, I don't know if you remember, but if you've been on some of my WooCommerce calls, my one client, my big client that does kilns, and
yes.
All of that was custom posts. I use pods to build that. And then there's a combination of, kiln taxonomies that I had to use to help filter and stuff. So it is a lot of work, and you got to think it out. You definitely, I think, need pencil and paper to lay it out.
Yes.
how
exactly
it's all going to, before you go to the computer.
Yeah, that would be the best thing I could say. And then the only other thing that I was going to say, they're actually going to be selling those inventories, like the vehicles.
Yes, not
Okay.
online. It's a local dealership, but yeah, they will be sold.
So one thing to think about now, it's somewhat limited, but if you use Zapier, right, you can create a Google Doc sheet where you can have the post title. And again, this is what I was working on with the client, where if you had, okay, they got a Silverado that came in there, 2005 Silverado. So on their spreadsheet, they would, because he was very much a mobile user. Okay, so he could create his Google Doc or his Google Sheet, and the template would be pretty formulaic, right? Post title, excerpt, different things like that, right? So there's different fields that you can fill out. And then that way, to automate stuff, they just add a new line to that spreadsheet. Every time that they hit the return on that add a new line, it creates a post for them. And then so that what all they have to do on their mobile phone, then they can go in there and add up those photos that they had to that post. It makes it a lot easier for them once they understand, how to edit, the post within WordPress, which is pretty easy to do on a mobile phone if you know how to do it. But that way, again, you can have that. If you set up like what Sharon was talking about, really think about your structure, your different things like that, and you set up your, why am I just blanking on it? We were just talking about this.
Taxonomies.
Categories. Yeah, the taxonomy in that right way, it'll just flow, right? And then again, as long as they're not trying to sell it, then you could just not worry about WooCommerce. You could just use it in terms of, hey, this is the template for, maybe it's for each one of the products that they have. But more than likely, they just are going to need one for the cars. You develop the template, and then, for each post, it's going to have a new post, and that'll be ruled by that template.
Well, even then, if you're not, if he's trying to sell it, you could just use a button to buy it.
It's true.
Yeah, and like tie it to whatever payment platform they have.
No, he's not going to do that. Sell them online.
Okay, well then, yeah, I would do the Zapier thing and not even worry about WooCommerce. Because if you think about it, WooCommerce is made for inventory, and it's already, you're adding a lot of bulk to the website already by installing WooCommerce. So
Right.
if you do the Zapier thing and he just has an inventory that he wants to add, I think that would be the simplest way to go.
Right. And then again, you can build it to where, and this is what I had with this client, I just showed them how to. So once you create your custom fields, right, you have your custom fields within there. And once you set them that first time, then it becomes formulaic, right? They would add the engine, they would add the make, the model, the VIN, the mileage, the price, right? So all that stuff, they just had to go, okay, add a new field, price, add a new this. And so they went through and they knew that they would have, hey, these are the elements that we have to add. Because again, the one downside about the Zapier, and I don't know if you know what Zapier is, but a Zapier just allows things like a Google Sheets doc to talk to WordPress. And so again, there are certain things that it can do, but it's extremely limited. So it can't do custom fields within the Google Doc. So you create your Google Doc, you'd have your post title, you have your excerpt, you can even have the body content within there. So again, that guy thinks about, hey, this is an amazing Silverado F-150. Here are the moderations that we've done. Whatever he wants to talk, his sales pitch within there, all of that stuff would feed then over for him, and it would create that post the minute that he hits return on that Google Sheet. And then he has to just go into, again, if he's like this person that I was talking to, they're always taking pictures, with their phone, then they can either if they want to do that extra step of uploading it or not, they can just go into that post after it's been created in the Google Doc and then add in your picture, add in that kind of stuff. And you can even add in your pictures with your body content. I just don't know if I would do that because it might not aspect in the way that you want. I would probably recommend going into that post, adding the gallery like from the block elements in the actual WordPress editor, not editing it in Elementor, but actually editing it in the Gutenberg setup. That makes sense.
And then create your template to display it.
Yeah. And then that's the thing. So your template kind of rules everything, and then it could be very nicely laid out and whatnot. Again, I wish I had that website. That way I could show you in real world, but unfortunately,
I have
just looked and it's not there.
I have Elementor. What is it? Custom
skins.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
for
have
your.
that, so I can design the template. Okay.
Yeah, but that's individual, images on the main page. But then when you click on it, don't you want to see the whole post?
Yes.
Yeah, so you still need to create
So
it.
you'd have to design a single also.
Yeah.
But I'm not familiar with Zapier, and certainly not connecting it to a Google Sheet. So I may have to figure that out. But
Matt, sorry,
sure,
Dennis.
go ahead.
Matt, is it there? It's either on Zapier or well, you could probably find it on YouTube. But how to actually create a Zap? That's what you do. Is you create a Zap, and you connect. Like you're going to create a Google Sheet to WordPress, and that's really all you're doing. But then you got to create the Google Sheet that you want to Zap.
Right.
But
it's
my question is.
It sounds daunting, but it's honestly, if you start diving into it, you'll be able to figure it out. Again, it's that time. If you have the time to figure it out. Now, Zapier does cost money, though. So you will, if he's constantly updating things and selling a lot of cars, then he could run into a spot where he is paying money. But again, it's very kind of minimal for if he's selling that many cars. And as long as he's not making too many what are called zaps, like what Sharon referenced, and that's just literally saying a function. So the function would be new line on Google Sheet creates new post within WordPress. That is one zap. That's one action. Okay.
Every time?
Yes. So then you have an allotment, not for every like individual one, but for like every post that it creates, right? It would be considered a zap. Now you have a certain number that you can have that are for free. And I think it's up to like 500, I think it is per month, or maybe it's only 250 per month. That's free. Okay. And I'll pull up Zapier really quickly. And I think we'll need to kind of be done, but
my other question is, Zap only feeds into the native WordPress fields, not custom post or custom fields.
No, you can.
Yeah, but so yes, it only will create a post that is in WordPress, right? Because it's taking it. So an example for here, let me it is an example of, I don't know if you guys can see it yet or not, but this is a WooCommerce transaction to a donor database. Okay, so it takes this add-on donation and it sends it, but it filters it out. It says only if this is an add-on donation, then it's going to go to this a database that's called Bloomerang, right? That's built for nonprofits. And so whenever they get these purchases from the WooCommerce, if it's a Adopt a Raptor program, it's going to go into a very specific, what they call a fund, okay, for nonprofits. They'll have various different funds that they have, and they can only spend money on XYZ, right? And so each one of these ones has to be listed appropriately. And that's why we have a number of these ones that it'll have different line items, and it'll go to a different fund. And so you set up that Zap. So in this case, though, it would be one that would be, again, you create a Zap after you've created an account, and you would, it's going to say, what kind of app do you want to start out with? Okay. That's your trigger. Okay. And again, if it can upload, good old Bevy.
Yeah, it's on my screen.
Oh no, it's not
Oh,
loading up. There should be apps right here. I don't know if you can see these little
I can.
blinking rectangles. So basically, you're going to set up a trigger event, which would be your Google Sheets. And so you would select your Google Sheets here. Then you'd have an action, and your action would be to create a post within WordPress. But to answer that point, when you create that post, if you have all of this template that you've designed in Elementor, rules that kind of a post or that type of a post, then you're going to be set. It'll be controlled by that Elementor template that you create. Again, I wish I could show you on this website a real world example of it. I just don't have it right now. But again, we can talk about that more offline. If you want, you can reach.
But again, it only goes to native WordPress fields, not custom fields.
Yes. Not custom fields. You will not be able to edit custom fields. So there are still things that you would have to edit within that page to do there.
But you can add custom fields to that post.
You can have Zapier. Zapier doesn't, at this point right now, Zapier cannot cannot fill out custom fields for you.
Seriously? That sucks.
Seriously, yeah. That's what kind of I was very frustrated because I got all excited and I had talked with the client about it, like, oh, it's going to be so great, and then I haven't found an I haven't found an automation tool that does that unless you get into custom APIs, setting up your own webhook that can find that out. But this person didn't have the budget for me to set that up.
Yeah, and I don't have the skills.
What's that?
And I don't have the skills.
Yeah. I mean, then you're talking a lot more complicated whenever you're setting up your own webhook, and that would be again another reason why you can't use. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be able to use Elementor because they don't have custom webhooks yet. Not that I'm aware of.
No, they don't.
Okay. So yeah, that's another reason why you would use another one. So like within Astro Pro, they do have that functionality to set up your own custom webhooks.
Alrighty. You may not have the skills, but you'll soon have them.
That's right. I mean, YouTube University is amazing. You start digging in. How do I set up as a Zap from Zapier? You'll figure out. You'll have a tutorial that'll walk you through it. That's why, again, on these type of on the ones that I do, I don't really like to sit there and walk you through how to do each and individual ones because there are people that are amazing out there, and they get paid quite good bucks, to create that content. So, but hopefully you guys found that somewhat interesting. If you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, shoot me a message. Happy to help.
You did awesome, Matt. Thank you for everything.
Yeah, a lot of times I feel so scatterbrained, but you get up and you start talking about it. And then the delay is what really trips me up. I'm going to stop recording right now just really quickly. But the delay is always what throws